Georgia.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask unanimous consent that these answers to 4 questions that have been raised in the last few days in the media be submitted for the record.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I'd also like for the record to reflect that I have never been to Montana. I have been to Delaware, but I respect anything either one of these senators would say about any physician in Delaware or any physician in Montana. They have never been to Georgia. I've been to Georgia 72 years. I've lived there 72 years. And 30 of those years I've served with Tom Price in the state legislature, in the same neighborhood organizations. He's been my friend, he's been my doctor, and he's a great individual. And my knowledge of him is firsthand. I'm not going to read to you something that somebody told me Tom Price was or is or did or was accused of. I'm going to tell you the man I know who's been nominated for Secretary of Health and Human Services. I've known Tom, as I said, for 30 years. He's a great family man. He and his wife, Betty, are great members of our community. He's a great church man. He's active in his church and his community. He started out working in neighborhood organizations, graduated to the state legislature, became the first elected Republican majority leader in the history of the Georgia State Senate. Went from the Georgia State Senate to the United States Congress to replace me. He raised the intellectual component level of that seat tremendously when I got out and when he came in. He's done a tremendous job during 7 terms in this Congress, representing the people of my state. Now, I don't know much about medicine except that shots hurt, and I don't want to go to the doctor unless I absolutely have to. Tom knows everything about medicine because he's delivered it for 30 years. He knows about the affordability of health care. He knows about the needs of senior citizens. He knows about the innovations that are necessary to help all of us stay healthy for the rest of our lives. Tom Price is a committed public servant who has worked diligently and hard for the state of Georgia and the people of Georgia. Now, there have been a few things said about Tom that I want to address, not because I want to waste my time talking about things that are just allegations that are put together in some fashion and form to make him look bad. I want to just make the record straight. First of all, it's been said that Tom's for taking funds away from Medicare. That's ironic to me because last December, Tom and I were called on by AARP, the representative of the senior citizens of America, to go on the road and talk about how we were going to save Medicare and save Social Security, not cut and rob it. So we represented the organization, AARP, at their request who wanted to save Social Security and save Medicare. We've never spent a minute of our time talking about taking it away from anybody. If there's anybody that's going to be able to make sure Medicare works for the senior citizens of the 21st century, it's Dr. Tom Price of Georgia, and he's going to do it as Secretary of Health and Human Services in the United States of America. Secondly, there have been a lot of things impugning Tom and his investments and investments that he's made. Now, I introduced Tom to the Senate Finance Committee. I introduced Tom to the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee. I went through his application. I've seen everything on it. And you know, everything that he's being accused of doing, he disclosed in his reports. They're just using a technique that trial lawyers use called desperate impact, where you take 2 facts, put them over here, and put them together to make a negative rather than a positive. It's all in how you explain it and how you describe it. It's not in how the act took place. As the chairman of the Ethics Committee and the one that administers the Stock Act for this body, I know what we have to submit and make public. I know what we don't. And every single thing he's been accused of doing is just information taken out of his own disclosures that anybody can go on the computer and get today to make it look like he's bad and a bad guy. In fact, I told the Senate Finance Committee when I went to introduce him there, after listening to Chuck Schumer on the Sunday shows for 2 weeks talking about Tom Price, I felt like I was going to have to be a character witness for a convicted felon at a sentencing hearing. That's not right for us to do that to people. Tom Price is a great man. He's been a great public servant. He's done a great job, and he will do a great job as Secretary of Health and Human Services. I am proud to have introduced him. I am proud to know him as a friend. I am proud that he's going to be my Secretary of Health and Human Services. America and all her citizens will be better off because the doctor will be in the House. And I yield back my time.